What's going on, everybody? What is going on? It's your boy David with another video from Top Bunk Sports. And today we're going to get into the conversation of the possible new CBA that's going to be coming out either before or after December 1st. Now, again, for those of you that have followed me on X, right, at Top Bunk Sports, and you guys have seen me on the spaces, hell, you guys even seen me on Queens Baseball. Shout out to Queens Baseball. Make sure you guys follow them, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, right? You've heard me talk about, at least on certain occasions, you've heard me talk about what the factors of a new CBA could entail, right? And I've given a reason as to why it may or may not be good, from an owner's perspective and a player's perspective. I mean, from an owner's perspective, it basically comes down to them not wanting to deal with so much penalties when having to pay a big contract. It also entails them not wanting to lose draft picks, whether that's in-house draft picks or international draft picks. They don't want to lose that. They understand the value of having to build off of draft picks and having to build off of young talent, right? And then also, they also don't want to pay tax. Remember, guys like Mark Walters, right? Because he's been in the news a lot. Guys like Steve Cohen, um, owners like that continue to spend on on a big budget. The tax, when they get taxed, that money goes to the smaller market owners. So basically, you're giving these smaller market owners the money based off what you're being taxed. Um, so they're basically being fed off of our money. So every time Steve Cohen gets penalized, that money that he's being taxed, the money that they're taxing him for is going to the small market owners, whether it's Pittsburgh, Miami, um, Detroit, Colorado, like, those small market teams that really don't win and are not aggressive. That's where the money's going to. Owners with that type of mentality do not want to spend so much money on that because they understand, like I said, the value of the talent that they draft and not wanting to be penalized for it. However, it's been proven that a big market team that's been aggressive, you're ultimately going to win, right? So that's just what I don't remember the last. It was the last organization to win a World Series that was in a small market. I mean, maybe the 2019 Washington Nationals. Um, Obviously the Dodgers won it in 2020. The Braves aren't a big market. They won it in 2021. The Astros won it in 2022. They're a big market. 2023 was the Texas Rangers. They're a big market. 2024 was the Dodgers. 2025 was the Dodgers. Um, so most of the big markets have won, with the exception of the Washington Nationals, right? But a lot of these small markets, excuse me, now do not want to be in a mix of having to suffer through having to pay back and having to lose and all that. They don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. They feel like the time of having to pay these big contracts, like a Soto contract, an Otani contract, for that matter, a Vladimir Guerrero contract extension, they feel like that should be done with, right? Because it chokes up our payroll. It limits us from doing other moves, depending on where your payroll's based on the team. You know what I'm saying? Based on what they already have. So they're trying to come up with a new CBA where there could be a hard cap or a salary floor, or a salary cap in general. And to the owners, that's great. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we could get to a cap where we can spend a certain amount and not really have to pay that much back or have to, pay all these penalties, that's great. The way the NBA does it, that's great. However, the Players Association doesn't like it. The Players Association basically feel that, listen, if my market's where my market is at, and you're gonna deny me of that money, then what the hell is the point? Like, why is it that I have to, like, nah, I don't want that. If I'm owed, if my market is where it's at, if you're giving me an extension, or let's say I have an incredible year, right? And then I'm a free agent on my walk year. And I know that I can get paid, that my market is possibly in the 3 to 400 million. And you put you put a salary cap, and I can only get paid up to what, like 250. Let's just say, I'm just throwing a hypothetical. I don't if I could get more money, why can't I get that money? We talked about in my last video, when we talked about the first baseman situation with the Mets and how Pete Alonso went to Scott Boras. This is not only a game that they love, but this is a business. They want to get the best money that they can so they could go and support their family, their kids, everybody else in their family. This is not everybody's going to take that pay cut. So if a player understands that I'm going to bet on myself because I know my market can get higher, but yet now I necessarily can't get to that market because of where a hard cap is, I don't like that. And for me as a fan, I agree with that. MLB baseball has been able to move. They've been able to move without a hard cap or a salary cap or a floor cap for so long. For so long. And now that a player's market has gone bigger, like, it basically now is allowed them to get not only paid more, but players are realizing that. Again, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in one of my videos, I spoke about Ellie De La Cruz being a perfect example, right? Ellie De La Cruz was offered a contract extension that would have been the largest in franchise history for the Cincinnati Reds. It would have been more than the 10-year, $225 million deal that Joey Votto got. And he declined that. So if he declined that, that's because he understands, like, yo, these guys are getting paid this. I know that if I can continue the way that I'm playing, I can I can possibly I could possibly, get much more. But with a hard cap or a salary cap, or hell, even a floor cap, I think is a little bit different. I think a floor cap, you start off at a pay and then it goes up. But with a hard cap or just salary cap in general, you're only going up to a certain number. You can only get paid that amount. After you only get paid that amount, and then you become a free agent again. Based on the amount of years that you sign that deal, right? But like an NBA, the max that you could get on a free agent contract is 212 for 4 years, right? So in MLB, they could have it up to 250 for 4 or 5 years, right? So if the salary cap, the most that you could get paid within a max contract is 250 million for 5 years. Once you become a free agent, like, that's it. It resets. You can't get paid more than that unless you get extended, right? Then I think the extension works differently. But I say that to say that, again, there are different scenarios where this may not work, either for a player association or for the owners, because they're just on two different sides. One side wants a salary cap, the other one doesn't. So I say all that to say that Jeff Passan, MLB insider, put a tweet out basically saying that there was a proposal today by the MLB. Well, not today. This was yesterday, August 27th. The MLB put a proposal that basically showed the changes that would be made for the off season, right? And again, this ties into everything within the new CBA that is supposed to, start a lockout after December 1st. A lot of fans have been screaming about free agency, including myself, being too long. Players are taking too long to sign. This is getting ridiculous. Like, we need to have a certain deadline as to when players can sign, so we already know who signed and what's going to be structured for a certain team for the upcoming baseball season. So he says Major League Baseball today proposed drastic changes to its off-season calendar, including shortening free agency to a 2 to 3 week window every offseason, source tells ESPN. The details of the proposal: one, a free agent dead period until the first day of the winter meetings in early December, in which players and teams can negotiate, but no deals can be signed. Trades would be allowed during this period, right? So they can negotiate, right? This is just straight negotiations, but you can't sign any deals. You cannot do anything. This is just straight negotiation. So basically, what winter meetings are basically for. I mean, even though the difference is in winter meetings, you can sign a guy based off that negotiation. With this one, you can go to winter meetings, but no contract signings can happen. You can't officially sign a guy. So that's the only thing that is changing. This, and you can still do trades, so that's a good thing. But this is kind of good. This is kind of good. It gives players more time to think than just signing on the spot. The second one, free agency would open the Monday the winter meetings begin, and would close December 21st. So let me search this up real quick. Winter meetings 2027. 2027. Okay, I don't know. It does not say the date. Let me see. It doesn't say it. It doesn't say it for some reason. Let me see date. Date. Okay. The 20. Well, it says it here. It says based on, this is AI, so I don't know how 100% this is, but it says the 2027 winter MLB winter meetings are scheduled for December 7th through December 9th, 2027 in San Diego. Okay. So they got about 3 days within the winter meetings to just negotiate, and then the Monday. So if December, let me see, December 7th, the Monday of the winter meetings when they begin. So if it happens December 7th. Okay. So yep. So it says free agency would open the Monday of the beginning of the winter meeting. So free agency basically wouldn't happen in November. What would be free agency would happen on the beginning of winter meetings, which is Monday, December 7th, and then it says and would close December 21st, which is Monday. So they got about a week. They got about 2 weeks for anything to happen. It would close on the Monday, December 21st. From Monday, December 21st through the first Monday in February, no free agent signings or trades would be allowed. Through the first Monday in February. Okay. Free agents could sign and trade would be allowed again from the first Monday in February onwards. Okay, yeah. So again, that limits a lot in terms of guys taking time to sign or whatever. Negotiations would only happen from December. Negotiations are only happening from December 7th to December 21st. From December 21st up until the first Monday of February, knows that gives them a good probably month, a good full month to at least think about the negotiations that have been present within any team. On the Monday of February, the first Monday of February is when they can officially sign. They can tell their agent, listen, unless a team has backed out, not now they're starting today, the first Monday of February, which would be technically, that would be the first Monday of February would be February 1st. So February 1st, I want to sign with this team, or any day until spring training, because it says for the first Monday of in February onward. So any day after February 1st, they can start making the decisions on who they want to sign with, which is better. It eases things out. Things don't take long. Maybe that period, and I could be saying that wrong. So if anybody in the comments that want to correct me on that, please do. Again, please don't. I don't want to look stupid here, but from the 21st up until the first Monday, of February, negotiations, whether it's signings or trades, are gonna happen. So that's your moment right there where things are really not gonna take off, which is good for me because I got Knicks playoffs. I got Knicks game, during the regular season. Then I got football, obviously, but things there would not be happening. And then after the first Monday of February, things will start to pick up and probably signings, which is again, who knows if this is gonna happen. But I have a feeling that a lot of teams are gonna sign within the quickness as soon as the World Series is over, because they don't want to be in a potential lockout and not have their deal. So that goes for Schoolboy. That goes for a lot of free agents. Uh, the first baseman free agents like a Jake Bauer, Austin Vaughn, who I know I've been preaching about maybe the Mets could get if they're trying to get a first baseman out of free agency. Just putting it out there. I should have said it in my other video, but just putting it out there because those are the ones I remember off the top of my head. But yeah, this is very interesting. This kind of puts this kind of sorts things out. This sorts things out a little bit. It makes a little bit things more easier. So we know, okay, from here to here, we know there's negotiations. We can look at the reports of the negotiations and know that this team has negotiated with this team or whatever. Then we know, all right, soon as February 1st comes, if that's how if I'm perceiving it correct, soon as February 1st comes, we know signings are gonna start. So we're intrigued to see who the Mets are gonna sign, what other team that you're invested in is going to sign. At least we know that's coming after that first Monday of that month, which is February. So that's pretty interesting. And then another thing that he tweeted right here, right after that, was the same thing. My bad. He said the Major Leagues Player Association interim executive director Bruce Meyer on MLB's proposal that would overhaul the offseason calendar and shrink most of free agency to a short window in December. In quotes, Bruce said this: the league, through their propaganda arm, is promoting their latest set of rosters and transaction proposals as player friendly. The MLB expressed conditions these proposals on the players' agreement to a salary cap system, which would drastically reduce overall player compensation, eliminate fully guaranteed contracts throughout escrow, and turn back the clock on fundamental player rights, which is what I said in the very beginning. Their latest, which is why I don't think they're gonna agree to any of this crap, because that's what you're taking away. One's got to lose here, and that's just basically what it is. To continue, their latest proposal regarding free agency would eliminate player rights by establishing the artificial free agency window subject to a salary cap, which would reduce a player's leverage to create a game of musical chairs pitting player versus player. The suggestion that the only way to limit roster chum or incentivize earlier free agent signings is with a salary cap and is entirely unserious. Players have proposed changes that would address these priorities, but the league is not interested in any changes that don't directly reduce the rights to all the players and shift the league the leverage to the owners, which is what I'm saying. which is basically what it is. And again, and the only thing that I kind of disagree with is the leverage to the owners. I don't think it's more leverage to the owners. If anything, I think it's just trying to help the owners not put themselves in a situation where they got to pay back. They have a right to not pay back, whether it's pay back to a smaller market, pay back in terms of penalties, for your tax and having to pay so much, for large contracts, and then obviously losing on draft picks. I don't think it's a leverage to them. I think it's trying to help, but again, understanding that if you're trying to help the owners eliminate that, and that's what they're trying to do as owners, they're trying to put in place, you have to take a it's like an in and out. One, in order for one thing to succeed, the other one has to drop. You can't have it both ways. And that's just the situation that we're in right now, because the players association have always been, we want to have our free stance on this. We want to have a free opportunity to get what we earned. We want to have a free right to get as much possible money as we can. And the funny thing is, like I said, as much as I understand the owners and why they don't want to keep going through that, I also understand the players. Why? Because if we've gone through so many years with this exact CBA the way it's gone, where there has been no salary cap, why do it now? It's as simple as that. You know why? Because at the end of the day, what we earn as players, right? We earn what we earn based on the advertisements that have been given to us. And that's a separate thing. That's a separate money, right? But our advertisements are what it is because based on our production. Everything aligns to the production that we put on the field. Our production on the field is what puts money in those seats, is what put butts in those seats. Our production on the field. Sometimes it's something that the organization do, but a lot of the times these fans are not here for what the organization does outside of the production on the field. These people want to see production on the field. So again, you have to understand that we feel like if we have a certain market to get paid a high number, a high number, based on what the contract is, on what the market is, and based on what you're trying to give us within the contract, we deserve that. And at the end of the day, we feel like if the MLB has been able to run properly with that never being an issue, why is it an issue now? And that right there is where I can understand their point. I truly, truly understand their point with that. That is going to be a very, very hard decision and a very, very hard conversation to talk about. There has been multiple proposals from the MLB to try to get something going, so that way there is no lockout after December 1st, and we don't have to be in the situation. But ladies and gentlemen, the Player Association will never back down from their rights. The Players Association will never back down from what they're owed. They understand that, listen, me as a player, I understand what I'm worth. I understand what I've done. I understand that I could get paid a certain amount. And yes, it's not all about money. I know fans hate that. Fans hate players that go for money. But at the end of the day, this is a business, and you can't shy away from that. If the opportunity is there, the opportunity is there. I'm a loyal cat. If I was in that position and the Mets could offer me something to where it's still a decent amount and I could return back and stay loyal to this organization and fan base, I would. But I can also understand somebody leaving and saying, listen, if I'm getting paid, like Ellie De La Cruz. Ellie De La Cruz has came from their system. Ellie De La Cruz has been a homegrown player since the moment that they drafted him. But at the same time, he's looking at it from a standpoint like, yo, bro, like, y'all haven't provided anything for me. Granted, he's been up and down, a little bit of injuries, but if y'all trying to make me the highest paid player on your organization, and I know I could get something better somewhere else or in free agency, I'm not gonna take that. I'm not gonna take that. No matter if I am the highest paid player on your organization or not. I know what I could get. I could get much, much more. It's all a business, man. It's all a business, and that's just what it is. But there's a way that there's a way that this can definitely work. If you put a floor cap, if you put like a salary floor, excuse me, if you put a salary floor where they can start at a certain number instead of putting a hard cap and they got to stop at a certain number, and again, and it fucks with the players' rights. I think a salary floor can definitely still give the players' associations what they've had, because it can rise, but the salary floor allows the small market teams to start even with the big market teams. And then if you want to keep going and keep going, then it's up to you. But again, I think with that, with the players' rights being involved and players looking at it from a standpoint of, yo, my market is important, it also comes down to one major thing, and that's the fact that these small market teams don't want to spend. Okay, everybody keeps looking at a Mark Walters. Everybody keeps looking at a Steve Cohen because they have so much money. But what about small market owners that are one of the richest owners in the league? We're talking about a Artie Moreno from the Los Angeles Angels. We're talking about the owner from the Chicago White Sox. We're talking about the owner from the Detroit Tigers. We're talking about the owner from the Las Vegas Athletics or the Sacramento Athletics, however the fuck you want to call them. We're talking about those owners. We're talking about owners that, again, don't even want to pay 20 million of a player's salary because that's just too much for them, and they'd rather just keep their prospects. And I'm talking about the Milwaukee Brewers not paying the rest of Tyreek Skubal's salary to pair him up with Jacob Mizorowski, so they can take a weapon away from the Dodgers and go compete because they're about to win the NL Central again and go compete for the playoffs to win a championship. It's not our fault that owners don't want to spend. Whether they're small market or not, they have the money to spend. It is not our fault that they don't want to be aggressive. So when teams in a big market like the Mets or the Dodgers, for that matter, go ahead and spend, and they're doing it within the confines of baseball, I say that loosely, and they're winning, if specifically if you're the Dodgers, you can't get mad at them for that. However, if you're a small market owner and you want to cater to your fan base and you want to be aggressive, you want to tell your fan base, yo, enough of us being cheap. Let's put our money where our mouth is because we're getting revenue back anyways. We're making money from other businesses. Let's actually be aggressive and go get the big fishes and spend money. Things would be much different. And I believe that if that was the case, we would not be in this situation right now with the CBA. I think everything would not be a problem because now the players on the level, well, not the players, excuse me, the owners, the small market owners that are being cheap would be on the level of the big market owners that are being aggressive and that love to spend. And they would understand that, listen, we all got to pay tax anyways, but we're being aggressive to get the players that we want so we could win a championship and not even care about the penalties. Yes, draft picks are important. I understand that building through draft picks is just as important. You want to build on young talent. Especially if you hit on one, all you have to do is hit on one to create a major star. But at the same time, it's like if you constantly keep winning in a division that you know that eventually you're gonna get pummeled by one of these big market teams, then start establishing yourself as a big team that likes to pay, whether your market is small or not. And that's another situation. So, yes, I do see where the owners are coming from in terms of not paying all that penalties and stuff like that. But at the same time, you guys are doing it to yourself because even with the tax money that you guys get from these big owners, it's still not doing you guys anything at all because you guys are not being aggressive. So now you got to let the Players Association take a hit because you guys don't want to be aggressive and you guys don't want to spend for your team and for your fan base. And that's just where we're at. And like I said, if these small market owners that really have a lot of money would start spending, I don't think we'd be in this situation right now. But we might have a new a free agent system in the off season. Who knows if that gets 100% completed? I don't think it does because the players association representative already came out and said why this doesn't work and how it doesn't leverage the players. It doesn't even equal the players and owners. It just shifts leverage to the owners. So who knows what happens? But yeah, man, more of this information and more of possible proposals from the MLB or the Players Association is going to come out. So obviously, if I could get some videos on that as well, I will bring that to you guys. But this is just an update of where they're at so far. We may or may not have baseball in 2027, and that's the reality of it based on the CBA, man. We'll see what happens. But until then, like I said, like this video, make sure you guys subscribe to Top Bunk Sports. on YouTube. Make sure you guys follow me at Top Bunk Sports on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you guys show me some love. I have 2 other videos that are already out, so make sure you guys go like those videos and go give them a watch. And let me know in the comments what you guys think about what I've said today in this video and those other 2 videos. I appreciate you guys. As always, let's go Mets. And until then, I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.